Site for Wight Talking News for Friday the 22nd of January 2021.
Alison reading from the Island Echo. Census 2021 will provide a snapshot of modern society. Households across the Isle of Wight will soon be asked to take part in Census 2021. The census is a once-in-a-decade survey that gives the Office for National Statistics the most accurate estimate of all the people and households in England and Wales. It has been carried out every decade since 1801, with the exception of 1941. It will be the first run predominantly online, with households receiving a letter with a unique access code, allowing them to complete the questionnaire on their computers, phones or tablets. Ian Bell, Deputy National Statistician at the Office for National Statistics, says, "A successful census will ensure everyone from local government to charities can put services and funding in the places where they are most needed. This could mean things like doctors' surgeries, schools and new transport routes. That's why it is so important everyone takes part, and we have made it easier for people to do so online on any device, with help and paper questionnaires for those that need them." Census Day will be on the 21st of March, but households across the country will receive letters with online codes allowing them to take part from early March. The census will include questions about your sex, age, work, health, education, household size and ethnicity. And for the first time, there will be a question asking people whether they have served in the armed forces, as well as voluntary questions for those aged 16 and over on sexual orientation and gender identity. Results will be available within 12 months, although personal records will be locked away for 100 years, kept safe for future generations. This means that records from 1921 will soon be made available. There's lots of information available if you would like to find out more about the census in advance at census.gov.uk. Ursula Dowd, Census Engagement Manager for the Isle of Wight, can also be contacted on 07452 936 794 or by emailing ursula.dowd24@census.gov.uk, and Dowd is spelt D-O-W-D.
This is Howard reading an article on an upgraded cycle path from the Island Echo. Residents are being urged to have their say on plans to make it both easier and safer to get on your bike in Newport. A public consultation has launched on proposals to upgrade the footpath that runs behind Fairley Road into the town centre. Under the scheme, the former railway line between Mews Lane and Newport Quay would be upgraded with a smooth all-weather surface, creating a safer route for cyclists away from the busy main road. As part of the plans, the path would also be widened in places to enable shared use with pedestrians. Councillor Ian Ward, Cabinet Member for Transport and Infrastructure, said the scheme would provide greater connectivity to residential areas, schools, businesses and the town centre. He said, "We may be in national lockdown now and staying at home to keep our community safe, but in time, more people will travel again. This plan will help more people to travel safely by bike or on foot rather than in cars on their commute, all the while providing a space to maintain social distancing." The footpath was identified as a priority route to and from Newport in the Council's local cycling and walking plan published last year. It's since secured £235,000 from the government through its active travel fund to deliver the scheme should it receive support. Councillor Ward added, "This funding has been provided to help us enable active travel routes during the COVID-19 pandemic, that support people who cannot work from home to travel safely. We expect works to commence in the spring following consultation with local people, road users and those who already use the route. You can complete our survey online.
This is Dan with an item from the Island Echo. Motorists must now pay on exit at Ryde Pier, says Wight. Wight has introduced charges to the toll system on Ryde Pier from today, Wednesday the 20th of January. Motorists are being advised that the pier toll will now be charged upon exit in a bid to improve traffic flow and avoid queues at the entrance. Previously, traffic backed up onto the main carriageway as motorists stopped to pay the £1.30 toll before travelling onto the historic pier. Those using Ryde Pier are now being told to have a debit credit card or mobile device ready when leaving. During the lockdown periods, when the Fast Cat has not been running, the pier barriers have been raised allowing free access. However, the £1.30 charge has been reintroduced. The toll has not increased in price and it still includes 30 minutes of free parking. Wightlink's Fast Cat catamaran service between Ryde, Pierhead and Portsmouth Harbour remains suspended due to the coronavirus pandemic.
Hello, this is read by Sue and it's an article from the Isle of Wight County Press. Air ambulance boss speaks after COVID airlift with Coast Guard. We will do everything we can to be there for you. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance CEO Alex Lochran has said after his team airlifted COVID-19 patients from the Isle of Wight to hospital in Southampton on Sunday. The air ambulance and the Coast Guard search and rescue helicopters were involved in the operation to transfer 2 patients to University Hospital Southampton as St Mary's coped with rising hospitalisations. Alex Lochran said, "We're in the struggle together, a struggle that is far from over. It is our duty to do everything we can to ensure the safety of residents on the island and that they get the necessary critical care during this pandemic. We are prepared to do whatever it takes in these continued challenges against COVID-19. I can assure everyone within our region and beyond, if you are in serious need of our specialist medical skills, no matter who you are, we will do everything we can to be there for you." On Wednesday, daily cases were falling, but hospitalisations and deaths lag behind, and there is a warning to keep following the hands, face, space and ventilate guidelines. As COVID-19 infections rose over the weekend and more islanders needed hospital treatment, the air ambulance critical care team used their helmed 56 helicopter to get to the Isle of Wight. They were then picked up along with the patients by the Coast Guard helicopter for the transfer to the mainland. The air ambulance team has trained in readiness alongside the RAF and the Coast Guard. They can also evacuate patients off from the Channel Islands if required.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Consultation reopens on controversial Araton oil drilling plans. Consultation has reopened on the application for exploratory oil drilling on the Isle of Wight, and final plans have been submitted for the building, operation and decommissioning of a well site for the exploration and appraisal of hydrocarbon minerals at a site in Araton, just off the main Newport to Sandown Road. Information relating to access and rights of way mitigation measures has been updated, along with a new site layout, sections and restoration and clarification of ecology and environmental health issues. Advice sought from Island Roads before the submission of final highways measures saw the highways company say the proposed amendments were acceptable. resolving matters of an inadequate turning area, vehicles on the highway and insufficient parking. With the few concerns ironed out and the highway's access, a track road leading off from the A3056 next to the public footpath on St George's Down, remodelled by the applicants, UK Oil and Gas, Island Roads has now recommended the application be approved with 8 conditions proposed by them, including a wheel wash for vehicles connected to the construction of the site and gates set back from the main road. UKOG, says the scheme is an opportunity to see whether it would be viable to drill at the site near New Barn Business Park for oil in the future. It is not asking for permission for production of oil, only exploration as part of trial stages. The revised documents now mean comments are again being accepted in regards to the application, that is 20/00513/FUL until February the 12th. The campaign group Don't Drill the Wight, DDTW, however, has said it has real concerns the public will be confused due to the inaccuracies and discrepancies of the Council's planning portal, particularly with responses to the consultation. Keeping track of every response submitted, DDTW say as of January the 16th, there have been 2,243 objections and 69 supportive comments left for the Council to consider for the application. Having raised the issue with the Planning Authority and sent in a report with their findings, Sylvia May, a DDTW member, said, "The planning portal simply does not publish the correct number of differing types of submissions of any kind at the application link. We want to ensure all islanders understand it is still possible to add further objections and additional comments, particularly related to the new documentation." For more information about Don't Drill the Wight, including more information on the planning application, you can visit their website, which is Don't Drill the Wight, simply the letters all joined up with no spaces, DONTDRILTHEWIGHT.co.uk.
Alison reading from the Island Echo. Remember hands, face, space, even after you've been vaccinated. The COVID-19 vaccination programme is now well underway on the Isle of Wight, with scores of residents receiving their first dose. But those lucky enough to receive a vaccine are being reminded to follow the hands, face, space rule and not to get complacent. The NHS and the government are refusing to reveal how many islanders have been vaccinated to date, although information already revealed would suggest that somewhere in the region of 15 to 20,000 islanders have now been vaccinated, approximately 10% of the local population. Dr. Michelle Legg, GP and chair of the NHS Isle of Wight Clinical Commissioning Group, has said, "The rollout of the vaccine is undoubtedly a great weapon in our arsenal to fight off COVID-19. However, we must not get complacent and ignore government guidelines. I know we are all so keen to get back to our friends, family and loved ones as we did not too long ago. We are all desperate to hug our friends, children, grandchildren and our loved ones. However, now is not the time to lose our focus on the long-term goals. It is great news the vaccination is being delivered, but this alone will not slow the spread of this virus. We must continue to wash our hands regularly for 20 seconds, wear a face covering outdoors, and maintain social distancing. I know people's spirits will be waning, and as the days are colder and darker, it can be a very isolating time. But if we stick to these rules, then we will all come out of the other side stronger, better, and able to hug our loved ones as much as we want to. The prioritisation order of vaccinations being delivered has been set nationally by the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, or JCVI. At the moment, the vaccine is being administered first to those most at risk, including people aged 80 or over, people who live or work in care homes, healthcare workers, people in England aged 70 and over, as well as those listed as clinically extremely vulnerable. Although people in England aged 70 and over, as well as those listed as clinically extremely vulnerable, will begin receiving offers of a coronavirus vaccine this week, the focus still remains to vaccinate those aged 80 over first. The NHS will get in contact with you to offer you an appointment. Do not contact your GP practice in the meantime. If you miss your appointment, then you will be offered a new one as soon as vaccine and an appointment slot becomes available. If you are over 80, this does not mean you have to wait until over 70s have been vaccinated. You are still a priority.
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Vandals cause significant damage to once glorious Ryde Theatre. Embarrassed to be human. Those are the stark words from a local photographer who has captured on camera the significant damage caused to the former Ryde Theatre, which has sat empty for over 10 years. Earlier this week, Island Echo reported that Sienna Anderson's bicycle had been stolen from outside her home on Union Street. Amazingly, against the odds, the bicycle was successfully recovered when security guards found it dumped inside Ryde Theatre and were able to trace the owner thanks to the Island Echo article. The around-the-clock security team had only been put in place that night after individuals were spotted in the bell tower overlooking Lynn Street. The vandals were caught inside the building and very abruptly left, leaving Sienna's bike behind. One sad outcome of the situation is the reality of the damage that has been caused inside Ryde Theatre, something Sienna says is absolutely heartbreaking. The entire building has been vandalised with almost every pane of glass smashed and walls kicked in. An entire ceiling has been brought down in one part. Rows of seats have been mindlessly thrown off the balconies. Chandeliers have been smashed and toilets demolished. Paint has also been thrown around, pipes ripped from the walls, flooding the floors below, and beautiful wrought iron spindles kicked from their placements. Alongside all the damage, a number of stolen goods with labels attached have also been found. Sienna has taken a series of photographs to show just how bad things have become inside. It's said that security will now remain in place for the foreseeable future to prevent any further acts of mindless and despicable vandalism. Ryde Town Council are hoping to take ownership of the building in order to secure its future. £480,000 of funding was awarded to Ryde last September.
This is Howard reading an article from On the Wight about public toilets in Ventnor. The Mayor says 2 sets of legal advice were sought before asking for bids, and the whole process has been open, transparent and legal. A councillor has hit out at a lack of transparency and openness surrounding Ventnor's new public toilet, but the Mayor says that's not the case. Ventnor Town Council, VTC, is in the final stages of agreeing a new £150,000 toilet in the central car park, and a parking space issue with the Isle of Wight Council needs to be resolved before building work can start. Despite the progress, however, Councillor Colm Watling, a member of VTC, has criticised the way in which the public body has found a contractor to build the toilets. Companies have been invited to bid for the work. In some cases, public authorities advertise the contract through an online contract finder, which attracts a wider range of bids. In the case of the toilets, VTC asked 3 preferred bidders to provide quotes in the same way they procured work at Salisbury Gardens. Councillor Watkin, however, argues policies laid out by government says all public procurement must be based on value for money, and it should be achieved through competition unless there are compelling reasons to the contrary. He said, the contract could have been advertised. It should have been advertised. It was not advertised. The environment, local jobs and running costs should have been taken into account. They weren't. Why is that? Why would VTC proceed with the lowest of 3 quotes in the face of opposition when it could advertise and procure on the basis of fairness, transparency, and take into account the environment, social value, and lifestyle costs? The Isle of Wight Council do, other councils do. I've been trying to get VTC to understand the rules of procurement for a year, and they've defended themselves to the point of absurdity at every opportunity. Isle of Wight Councillor for Ventnor West, Councillor Gary Pierce, said more than one town councillor had approached him about the concerns raised. This is public money being used. VTC are asking for additional support from the Isle of Wight Council, and there is public mistrust surrounding the procurement process. I fully support Ventnor and any regeneration opportunities available to the town and its residents, and I'll continue to support VTC in its endeavours. But this support is contingent on proper process and financial transparency. Mayor of Ventnor, Councillor Stuart Blackmore, however, said the process has been open and transparent ever since the project was proposed and through its progression with open meetings and published minutes. Councillor Blackmore said Councillor Watling had a bee in his bonnet over the procurement process and he was entitled to his own opinion, but Councillor Blackmore was entirely happy with the decision. He said, "We at Ventnor are very aware of our duty to the public and due diligence process, so we took 2 sets of legal opinions, one from the Hampshire Association of Local Councils, HLC, and our own solicitors on the process we're about to undertake, ensuring it was completely open, transparent, and legal. We were assured by both parties that that was the case." Councillor Watling thinks we should have advertised it and invited tenders. That is not how we did it. When we did Salisbury Gardens a few years ago, we had a list of preferred bidders all out there in the open, all good standing, and that was how we approached the offering of the project to a builder. You can see in the minutes Councillor Watling has never voted against any of this at any stage, but he seems to think we should cancel the project and start again. We're not prepared to do that 2 years down the line. This is something we need for our public and something I think the public will welcome. The funding was put into our 2020 budget, so there's no impact at all on the precept for the coming year. Legal advice was given to VTC from HLC, said the council is not required to publish details on the contracts finder's website if they intend to make the opportunity only available to particular contractors. The contractor has not yet been awarded as yet final issues are resolved, but the preferred contract VTC has said is DN Associates.
Hello, this is Sue reading an article from On the Wight. Isle of Wight MP renews his call for Island Park designation. Seeley says this is not just about housing and protecting from overdevelopment, it is about protecting landscape in perpetuity and is part of a green agenda for the island too. Following his recent victory to persuade the government to scrap the controversial algorithm that dictated the scale and location of house building on the Isle of Wight, MP Bob Seeley has taken further steps to protect the island's green fields from development by asking the government for further landscape protections. Currently, around half the island is covered by the existing Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty designation, but Mr. Seeley said he wants to see more land protected. This is part of a wider strategy on environmentally friendly development of the island, both in housing or growing green industries such as wind and tidal energy. Mr. Seeley said, "I want the government to consider 3 options: an extension of the existing AONB status to cover more of the island, full national park status, or a new designation, an island park, which would sit somewhere between the protection levels of that of an AONB and national park." Mr. Seeley set out his vision in a virtual meeting with Lord Gernard, Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Rural Affairs and Biosecurity, and representatives from Natural England and DEFRA. AONB status gives land greater protection than normal planning rules and prevents large-scale greenfield planning, which Mr. Seeley has pledged to oppose. Mr. Seeley said, "The Prime Minister has set out his plans to designate and protect an additional 4,000 square kilometres of land across the country by 2030. I want the island to be included in that. I want the government to recognise that the island has a natural uniqueness which is worthy of further protection. We have a mixture of rare geology, unique beaches, some of the richest dinosaur finds in Europe, along with chalk downs, marshy inlet and a lot more besides. We must protect them from harmful development." He went on to add, "Currently we have 5 parcels of land designated as AONB. Most areas have one large continuous designation. I want us to get away from the field-by-field approach to designations and protect a much larger area of land. This is not just about housing and protecting from overdevelopment. It is about protecting landscape in perpetuity and is part of a green agenda for the island too. Where we build, we need to build for islanders in appropriate numbers in existing communities." Mr. Seeley finished by saying, "I thank Lord Gernard for listening to my ideas and for advising on next steps. It is clear that to push this agenda will require the full support of the local authority, so I will be talking to the Isle of Wight Council to discuss how we can move forward."
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Former poultry farm on edge of Gernard could become houses. Plans have been submitted to turn a former poultry farm into houses in the first part of a development between Cowes and Gernard. Filling the gap on Place Road between the range and the new 93-home Meadowview Park on the edge of Gernard, outline planning permission is being sought by Bourne Developments to build 14 houses. In a second phase of the scheme, which is yet to be finalised and submitted for planning permission, a further 27 detached, semi-detached and terraced houses are indicated to be built. The first phase homes, comprising of 2, 3 and 4 bed market houses, would be built on mostly disused land but with a collection of dilapidated sheds from a former poultry farm removed. The outline planning permission considers access, appearance, layout and scale of the site, with landscaping reserved for later consideration. Planning agents Andrew Wight, Planning Consultancy, said in a statement submitted with the application, the proposed development would inevitably alter the appearance of the site through changing it from an unkempt and partially overgrown previously developed site into a housing development. This is an opportunity to rejuvenate this site while delivering a mixed collection of quality homes of a scale, form, density and layout that is commensurate with the surrounding area. To view or comment on the application, 20/02229/OUT, you can visit the Isle of Wight Council's planning portal. Comments will be accepted until January the 29th. It is said Phase 2 will provide 35%, that is 14, affordable housing units on a mixed tenure basis, but the precise figures are still being determined.
Alison reading from the Isle of Wight County Press. Change is fair to everyone. Gernard parking fees decision. Controversial parking charges will be introduced to esplanades in Cowes and Gernard after the Isle of Wight Council approved changes. Income generation schemes, approved as part of the budget last year, will now be implemented in areas across the island, extending charges on all esplanades to all year round. A £2 fee at Somerton Park and Ride to park all day, and the introduction of charges between Egypt Esplanade Cowes and Prince's Esplanade Gernard. Speaking at the meeting of the Isle of Wight Council's Cabinet, Councillor Ian Ward, the Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Transport, said the revisions proposed in the parking order were to achieve fairness and consistency. He said, "Up until now, any increase in parking charges was applied to existing car parks and on-street locations. That means the residents that use those sites were solely subjected to the rise in charges, while residents elsewhere would pay nothing at all. That cannot be regarded as fair. Surely it is better for everyone to pay a little more than for some people to pay a lot more, again while others pay nothing. Of course, nobody likes to pay more, but I am sure all members understand the Council's finances are under pressure, and the Council must look for savings or income generation where it can." Councillor Ward said he had taken into account the 467 objections made, 449 alone for the Gernard changes. But most of the points could be applied to other communities on the island who already have to pay to park to use playgrounds, walk along the seafront, or go to a sailing club. The ward representative for Gernard, Councillor Paul Fuller, had been fighting the introduction of charges with the support of residents who started a petition to stop the changes. Councillor Wayne Whittle, the Cabinet Member for Regeneration and Business Development, however, said it was lucky the esplanades in Gernard and Cowes had escaped charges for as long as they had, but needed to be introduced to make things fair. He said, "I don't think anyone should pay to park, but we don't live in that sort of world. But we all have to pay for things like the floating bridge." Councillor Richard Hollis, Chair of Scrutiny, asked Cabinet members to consider altering the proposal slightly while still introducing the charges in Cowes and Gernard, stopping them before it reached the edge of the village green, allowing people to park freely when accessing local businesses and the sailing club. Council leader Dave Stewart said they could consider that going forward, but would still vote on the entire parking order going forward. Cabinet members unanimously voted in favour of implementing the parking order and introducing the new charges. It is estimated annually the charges will bring in an additional £157,900. That's £33,900 from Somerton Park and Ride, £58,000 from all-year Esplanade charges, and £66,000 from Gernard and Cowes Esplanade.
This is Den reading an article from the Isle of Wight County Press. COVID. Isle of Wight Police vow to patrol shops and ferry terminals. Island Police have vowed a crackdown on those breaking the COVID rules and will be conducting patrols at ferry terminals and supermarkets. Sergeant Radford on the Isle of Wight Police Facebook page said additional officers would be conducting COVID patrols and enforcement on the island, including at supermarkets, ferry terminals and beauty spots. He said they would stop vehicles where necessary and attend incidents where the law around COVID is suspected of being breached. It all comes down to a tougher stance on COVID enforcement, at a time when the island has seen the highest levels of the virus since the pandemic began, with St Mary's Hospital busier than at any other time during the crisis. Sergeant Radford also spoke about masks. He said, "I will expect the public to be wearing masks in shops, although shops are enforcing this. If I see you are not wearing one, I will be asking you why. I can understand that if you have a medical condition, this might feel intrusive, but we are at a point in the pandemic where this is necessary. Any interaction with the police involving masks would be constructive and handled with sensitivity. This might be the first time anyone has had interaction with an officer. I don't intend to make anyone feel belittled or upset. It would be a quick interaction. I love talking and engaging with the public, and it would be friendly. It is also important to know that just because the COVID rules say that you can do something doesn't mean that you should. I have seen firsthand the effects of COVID on healthy men and women of all ages, and I am personally taking every precaution and limiting every interaction." Sergeant Radford also offered advice on the vaccines and urged anyone offered the chance of a vaccine to take it. He said, "When you are offered a vaccination, get one. Do not let fake news or trolls try to spread false and malicious information. The only way we are getting out of this is for everyone to have a vaccination." He urged parents to take responsibility for their children and warned if they are under 18 and not adhering to the law, parents may be issued with a fine. To see the law and guidance around COVID, go to gov.uk/coronavirus. To report a COVID breach, go to www.hampshire.police.uk/... tell us about.
Hello, this is Sue. Drink drive ban for woman caught riding an e-scooter on the Isle of Wight, from Isle of Wight Radio. A woman has been banned for driving for 2 years after being caught drink riding an e-scooter on the Isle of Wight. Keir Jordan from New Milton was stopped in Newport last month, December. Magistrates say the e-scooter was classed as a motor vehicle. The 20-year-old was banned from driving for 2 years and given a community order. It's thought she is one of the first people in the country to be charged with the offence of being in control of an e-scooter while under the influence of alcohol. Beryl e-scooters are being trialled on the island at locations including Ryde and Newport.
Drop in demand closes Isle of Wight COVID testing centre, from Isle of Wight Radio. A fall in the demand for tests means the testing centre at One Leisure Medina will now only offer weekend appointments until it closes at the end of the month. It comes just weeks after the local authority announced it was opening. The local authority says the site at One Leisure Medina was only due to be in place for a short period of time. The new closed site will continue to be open Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. Sunday opening hours at New Close are being reviewed, but the site will remain closed on Sundays for the time being. Councillor Dave Stewart, leader of the Isle of Wight Council, said, "Thank you to the testing team for helping us to meet the demand for tests over the past couple of weeks. I'm pleased demand for appointments has decreased. We must, however, remember that it is vital that you develop COVID-19 symptoms, that you book a test at New Close or book a home test immediately. Self-isolate and do not leave your home except to get a COVID-19 test. Simon Bryant, the Council's Director of Public Health, said, "While the data shows rates of new infections at a local level seems to be falling, which is pleasing to see, we must remember the national lockdown measures remain in place. We need to continue to reduce the transmission of COVID-19 throughout our community, and the best way to do that is to stay at home. Just because we're starting to see an improvement does not mean that the virus has been contained. We must continue to remember hand, face, space, and ventilate, and we must always continue to stay at home. During lockdown, you can only leave your home to purchase essential items, getting COVID-19 tests, for exercise or for work if you absolutely cannot work from home. We must minimise the number of people that we come into contact with in order to continue to drive down transmission of the virus within our community. Bookings for One Leisure Medina can only now be made for Saturday and Sundays, the 23rd and 24th, and the 30th and 31st of January. Tests can be booked online or by calling 111.
Hello, this is Lisa welcoming you to this week's Talking News. Last week, I asked you for your opinion and any thoughts you had on the Talking News as it was being produced currently. I'm so thankful for those who wrote in, so many positive comments and so many people clearly enjoying the service. Thank you. Some other people did make other comments, which of course we will take on board, and I will reply to those people individually as well. It's very trying times, and we wish that we could go back and record in the studio with all the volunteers as we used to, but safety must come first. And with COVID ripe across the island, we must always consider safety first. Thank you for your cooperation with doing this. On a positive note, we are moving forward very quickly with our Alexa skill. The Talking News will always be available in any format that you wish it to come, whether that's USB, or whether that's an audio file to download, or whether that's through the new option on the Alexa skill. We have achieved funding in order to fund the entire production of the Alexa skill, and also we will be in a position to offer Alexas to people who do not currently have one, so they can access the Talking News like that. The new skill will not only offer the Talking News, including the current week and back issues, but it will offer the newsletters, any announcement, any COVID notices, and anything that we wish to add to it, all completely controlled by voice. You can stop, start, record, rewind, or fast forward as needed. We're very much hoping it will be ready to go out within the next 6 to 8 weeks, but it will be completed by the 31st of March for sure. A quick reminder of anyone who wishes to join the befriending scheme as a volunteer or a member, please don't hesitate to call the office and ask to speak to Elaine. Most staff have been furloughed again, but Elaine is working through the pandemic and we have got office support every day. So if you do need to call us, don't hesitate to do so. My kindest wishes to everyone. Stay safe. Lisa.
Scaffolding news for week commencing 25th of January 2021. Ride area 11-12 Esplanade. Sandown area 2 Pier Street. Wight City Culver Parade. Corkheads Restaurant Avenue Road. 9 Dove Cottage George Street. Flat C St George's Hall. Cows area Carphone Warehouse, the High Street, 31 Cross Street. Ventnor area 1 Eleanor House, Grove Road, 158 High Street. Yarmouth area King's Head, Quay Street. Harwood Yacht Chandlers, St James's Square. Freshwater area 3A Clarence Buildings, the Avenue, and 145 School Green Road. East Cowes area, the Lunchbox, 1 Clarence Road. Newport area, 100 the High Street. Halifax, the High Street. Skip News, Ventnor area, 140 High Street. Cowes area, 42 St Andrew Street. Wootton area, 8 Glebe Gardens. Sandown area, 31 Station Avenue. Sandown Pier, Sandown Esplanade. Seaview area, outside of Woodlands, Ryde Road.
Sight for Wight would like to thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Talking News. We would also like to thank our volunteers for reading, and a particular thank you to the Isle of Wight County Press, On the Wight, Island Echo, Isle of Wight Radio, and Vectis Radio.